Hi everyone, Delle here. Welcome to the channel. Welcome if you're new and welcome if you are coming back. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a personal share, personal testimonial type of a video about how I came back into harmony after finding myself in a very, very difficult period of imbalance and disharmony in my life that kind of grew over the course of a couple of years. So if that's something you're interested in learning about, please do stick around. I've tried to film this video multiple times now. I didn't realize how difficult it is to do like a personal share in this way, especially with about details and how much is too much to share, how much is not enough to share. So I think I've got the balance just right. And yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, this started for me some years ago now. I had decided I was ready to be in a relationship after being single for a while. And what ended up happening was I don't know, I did all this self-care work and stuff like that on myself where I was meditating all the time and going to yoga all the time and feeling really healthy and supported and vibrant in myself. And I thought, how nice would it be to share this or extend this out and be with a partner and enjoy that. So that's what I did. Right from the beginning though, I think I was in this more like, all right, let me just try something new. So I went on to a dating app, and that's not something I would normally do. I'm more of an old school person, and I like to connect with people in the real world and in that way. But I thought, well, maybe this is how people are meeting nowadays, and I wanted to not date or look for somebody to date in my social circle as it currently was. So I wanted to kind of meet somebody totally brand new and different. So that's what I did, and I found somebody on a dating app that was geared towards more, I guess, like consciously dating, which makes me laugh in hindsight because not to knock online dating or anything. I know several people have found their match on online dating or through a dating app, and it's worked out pretty well for them so far. But for me, it didn't align with, from the very beginning, to pick out a person or a partner for myself by just scrolling on my phone, because I like to be in the real world, and I like to connect with people in real time in that way. So, but anyway, I ended up connecting with somebody, and it went really well. It was a lot of wonderful things in common, really great sense of humor, things like that. Just a nice, very nice person. Little by little, though, as I was getting involved in this relationship, I started to notice things that I had built up for myself, certain regimens and things like that, where, for example, my diet was super clean, and I had quit smoking, so I was smoke-free. I hadn't really been drinking as a result of quitting smoking. So it was just things like that I had put into place for myself. I was practicing yoga regularly. And what ended up happening was I began to notice slowly as I got into this relationship, letting go of those things. How I would do all this meal prep, but then the person I was dating then just didn't really have an interest in eating those foods. So he would order out, and then we would end up eating what he ordered out. And I noticed that I had spent a lot of time cultivating this like anti-inflammatory diet for myself, but then I was eating foods that were really inflammatory, so things like dairy, gluten, and that just didn't really align with my body to eat on a regular basis. So that was the first thing, where it's like my diet began to slip because it was kind of just easier for the both of us to, oh, okay, if he wants to eat out, we'll eat out or whatever. Then I noticed something else too, that he was a smoker, and it didn't bother me at the time, but smelling the smoke started to trigger like this feeling of like, oh, I can have a cigarette. I can have a cigarette once in a while or whatever. And then it ended up happening like I was buying packs of cigarettes and smoking again. So that was the second thing. The other thing too is I started to notice like his personality was just very, very big, which is wonderful. It's fine. But I just noticed like he kind of going like this, because it felt like a tornado sometimes in the nicest way possible, where it was just easy to get swept up into whatever he was doing. So if you have noticed a pattern yet, it's literally when I got into this relationship, I started to shift my identity into what do I need to do to be in this relationship kind of a thing. And I started to lose aspects of myself that I had put into place, and you know, patterns and habits that I knew were actually healthy and supportive for me. And I kind of traded those out to be, okay, well, what's healthy and supportive for this relationship, without pausing to see or think about, is this even the relationship I want to be in? Is this something that I'm taking part in creating? Is this person even right for me? So it's just because in the beginning I felt like, oh, this is fun, this is good. You know, I like the way that this person makes me feel and all that. As I got into it, I was ignoring key things where I'm like, oh, now I start to feel sluggish. Now I don't feel as great. I'm noticing I'm not going to yoga as much anymore. I notice that I'm not walking as much anymore and doing things I like to do. So that was the first clue of disharmony and imbalance, really just as a result of my own lax approach to maintaining the integrity of the things that I put into place for myself. Here's where it gets interesting. So even though we were having a very nice time and he was a nice person, there are some things where I was like, I don't know, they weren't like such blaring red flags to me at the time. I got this intuitive message. So if you know me and you follow the channel already, I am a medium. I am literally a psychic intuitive medium. And I got an intuitive message, a download, that this was not the person for me. I remember exactly where I was standing. I remember how the message came to me. I remember how I felt about it, everything. That this intuitive message had communicated to me and let me know this is not the person for you. And it gave me details about why they weren't the person for me and what was to come. So it was important for me to exit the relationship so I could make room for what was to come. And I thought, I don't know why I thought this in hindsight, but we're here to learn a lesson. And the reason I feel called to share this, you know, with somebody out there is that I feel like there's a lesson in here to learn. So if you can learn from my mistakes, I'm happy to share. So I remember, even though having that knowing and that there was some disappointment where it's like, oh, but it wasn't like soul crushing or anything like that. It was just this knowing, because that's how your intuition speaks to you. It's just this knowing. It's God, I resonate with this as truth. I can feel the energetic vibration of this message as truth, and it is what it is. This is where the ego steps in and gets kind of creative. So the ego stepped in and was like, what's the harm? Like, what's the harm in just enjoying this relationship while it's here? And oh my gosh, I am picturing myself going back in time and being like, oh my gosh, no, leave the relationship. You were told to leave the relationship. Leave the relationship, but I didn't. I decided to continue it for a little bit longer. So instead of saving the moral of the story for the very end, which I will repeat it then too, I will pop it in here right now just to get it out of the way, because this is so important, and it's a little bit of foreshadowing as well. Once you have an awareness about something, it is now up to you. It's your responsibility with what you want to do and choose for yourself as a result of having that awareness. This is huge and this is key, and it will determine whether you want to ascend, excel, expand your consciousness, become more aware about yourself, or you will attract lessons that keep you in that same energetic vibration, and it's going to feel like work, because we are all meant to grow and expand. And when we decide not to grow and expand, we keep ourselves limited and we end up hurting ourselves. We harm ourselves that way. So again, once you have this awareness, the choice is up to you. What would you like to do with this information? Because you're going to attract whatever you decide. I like to imagine sometimes what it would have been like if I had chosen to expand and to listen to that intuition, but that wasn't what happened, because I obviously had a lesson that I needed to learn. So as a result of me staying in this relationship, my body started to shut down very, very quickly and severely, to the point where it was just like one health thing after the other, where it got to a point where the relationship was so ridiculous by the end of it that those little, is this a red flag? Maybe not, it's fine, turned into like the biggest red flag that you have ever seen in your life, where it was just like, okay, this is unmistakably, I need to get out of this relationship now. It got to the point where people, like my neighbors, who I didn't really talk with that much, were actually coming up to me when I was alone to let me know that if I needed help, they were there at any time just to go to their place. So it goes to show you how blind we can be sometimes, especially when we're really involved in something, or we become attached to something, or we have developed certain expectations out of something. We can really put those blinders on and choose not to see anything else, including what's going on within your own body. So fast forward this is where I was like, how much do I reveal? How much do I not? Because it's just so ridiculous. But it was just one thing after the other after the other. It just escalated to a point where it's like, oh my gosh. What I really learned is that my tolerance for BS is quite high. So that has changed since then. I have like a minimal tolerance for that kind of stuff now. But this was all things that I had to learn. I had to learn about enmeshment as an empath, which is like the absorption and taking on of other people's energy, where it's almost like you can't decipher anymore what's your own energy and what's this person's energy. So that was something I had to learn. I had to learn all about like what an actual healthy, strong boundary is, not just for myself, but for other people around me. I had to learn again about what do I actually want in a relationship? How do I want to show up in a relationship? What is my responsibility in contributing to the relationship that I do want? All of these were things that I had to relearn again and really dive even deeper into to make sure that I did not attract that situation back into my life again. A big thing was addiction. So a lot of us may not think that we have addictions to things if they're not like big key things. So if you are not a drug addict, if you are not an alcoholic, you might not think that you have an addictive personality. But addiction is so sneaky and it can show up in many different ways. So, for me too, it was about like smoking was one where I was like, yeah, I have to come face to face with I'm addicted to smoking. So that was a habit I had to break through this new lens all over again. Because before it was like I would enjoy one, but it wasn't healthy. So I would stop smoking more from the health point of view, but I had to actually address the addiction part. So something huge that happened for me to help begin my life to get back into balance was I took a look at everything that turned me off from this person in this relationship. And I literally wrote it down. I said everything I didn't like about him in the end of it, after it was all said and done. I didn't like that there was dishonesty. I didn't like that he had a lot of addiction problems. I didn't like that dishonesty and lying is there, but he was like a liar by omission as well too. I didn't like that he was very manipulative and it was just things like that. I don't want to bash the person because, I think that this person is a good person deep down inside, but just, made some bad decisions, and we all do that. We all have that. That happens to us sometimes. So here's the hard part, and this is where if you are finding yourself out of balance in your life and in disharmony and in dissonance, this is the hardest part of it, but this is the biggest catalyst for you getting back into a state of harmony within yourself. Whatever you don't like about another person, a job, a situation, an environment, you make a list of it just like I did, and then you have to flip the script on yourself, and you have to look within yourself and be very honest to see where all of those things exist inside of you. That is the hardest part about the whole thing. I had to come face to face with the reality that like attracts like, and I had to then go through everything. Where am I dishonest in my life? Where am I addicted to things in my life? Where do I leave key pieces of information out, omit? So all of the things I was disgusted by and didn't like in this other person, I then had to turn around and face it back to myself. Where did all of those things exist within me? And then I had to literally uproot all of them, and it was so uncomfortable and so painful and so awakening for me. It was so worth it. I can't explain it any way better than that. It was so worth it to unearth all of those things. And if you've heard me say this on the channel before, it's like a few minutes or several moments over time of really uncomfortable vulnerability can shift so much profoundly for your life, for the better, for the greater good. And it's highly worth it, and I highly recommend it, but it definitely takes a lot of building trust within yourself to be able to do that, to not talk down to yourself, to be there for yourself, to love yourself through the process of it. And it also can be very, very isolating. So based on that, if you haven't signed up already, just kidding. It's why would you? I laugh too, because I'm like, if I had known I would have to go through all of this stuff, I never would have done it because it's so painful. But the universe has a beautiful way of just kind of leading you into things where it's like, this is for the greater good. This is for your highest and greatest good. So it's like little by little, but when you're in the thick of it, I had several dark night of the souls going on at this time too. It was horrible. It was just ancient old pain just coming up from not just this lifetime, but past lifetimes. And it hurt. It physically hurt. I ended up shedding just like a lot of old stuff, a lot of old skin, a lot of everything, just trying to get myself back into a period of harmony and balance. So now I'll get into how I did that exactly. The first thing I did, I don't know if this was the first thing, but I feel like a lot of these things were overlapping each other, so the timeline's a little whatever, so I'll just tell you everything that I did. The main thing was I had to quit smoking. I shouldn't have even picked that back up again, but I had to quit smoking, and this time I quit smoking from an addict point of view. So I looked at it, I admitted, okay, I'm clearly addicted to cigarettes. I need to quit this addiction. And I knew that it was going to be difficult because that withdrawal can be pretty challenging sometimes. So I downloaded an app that an old buddy of mine had told me about called Smoke Free. Highly recommend, because every day that you are smoke free, you can log it into the app and just say, I did not have a cigarette today. And it lets you know, like, it gives you rewards, but health rewards. So it's like, oh, in 2 days, you're going to have a normal resting blood pressure or something like that. Like it'll give you like markers that show, hey, you're actually getting healthier. Here are the statistics on that. So that was really helpful for me. It was like a little reward. But the most helpful part was there's a little journal section, and I already journal every day. But I like that there was this journal feature on the app. So it's every day, you know, you're on your phone anyway. So I would check the app. I would click, you know, I hadn't smoked that day. And then I would sit with the uncomfortable emotions. So whenever I really wanted a cigarette, I would have that like nasty, like desire, craving for a cigarette. I would pull out my phone and open up that journal feature, and I would talk it out. So I would talk out exactly what I was feeling, and then I would go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that. And I learned so much about myself that way, and why I had even picked up smoking in the first place, like way back in the day when this actually had started, this habit for me. And with that, I was able to clear a lot of past hurt, a lot of past trauma with people that I used to know or I used to smoke with, and it just cleared so much for me. So that was a huge thing, and I began to feel a lot better once I had quit smoking. The next thing that I had to focus on big time, so this is where these things kind of overlap, was I had full body inflammation that had developed. So my joints hurt really bad. I felt like a very, very elderly, not healthy person, where it was just like literally, I felt like I was arthritic. I had, again, just a lot of pain in my joints and my fascia and my tissue. I couldn't bend over to tie my shoes or pet my cats without feeling intense abdominal pain. So it was like, it wasn't even just in my skin and in my muscles and in my joints, but it was in my organs. It was horrible. I was having headaches and migraines and things like that, but I had had them on and off for a while in my life. So it got really bad to the point where I was just in pain all the time. Something could have bumped into my leg and it would be this like excruciating pain that would happen. So that was another huge thing that I had to do. So being a psychic intuitive medium, everyone is intuitive, by the way, and I have a video about how to develop your own intuitive abilities. So it'll be in the description box if you want to check that out. But what I ended up doing was just sitting with myself and with my higher self and my spirit team, and I asked, okay, I need to fix this. I need to fix my health. What do I need to do to feel better? And I got all of this insight about my diet and what needed to go, what needed to come back into my diet, so that way I could bring myself back into balance. And then roughly the time frame that I would be doing this for, this is where it got so challenging. I had to cut out sugar, yeast, dairy, wheat, gluten. I might have been repeating already, I'm trying to remember. So it was dairy, sugar, wheat, gluten, yeast. That was it. It was 5 of those. So all of those had to go. What was interesting was when I quit smoking, I had no desire to drink anymore. It was like that canceled each other out. So I didn't have to worry about giving up alcohol. And I really didn't drink that much anyway. I would have like a beer or a glass of wine or something like that. So what ended up happening was the alcohol was already gone, and I decided just to keep that up because I didn't really need to be drinking at this point. It was also very, very helpful because, as I have mentioned, this process can be isolating. What ended up happening was before the final breakup, I ended up moving away from everybody that I was close with, like about an hour away. So I began this process alone, literally alone, where I didn't have any friends or anybody nearby. I was completely alone. So I did have support and family that would come and visit and things like that, but what actually made this process both more difficult and more easier was I was able to just go through all of this stuff alone, because again, it brought up a lot of stuff that I had to clear from my past and also from past lives and things like that. So my diet had to change. Another part that was going on at the same time towards the end of the relationship, my body had developed like all of these skin rashes, and the biggest one was on my face. So I actually developed perioral dermatitis. If you know what that is, I feel for you. It sucks. But the good news is you can clear it up. So I was able to clear that up just by having those dietary changes as well too. So with the kind of like elimination diet that I was doing and drinking a lot more water and things like that, I was able to clear my skin naturally. It took a while. It took several months to do this. I want to say maybe like 6 months total. But just with the diet change alone, it had helped to heal the inflammation. It helped to heal leaky gut syndrome, is something that I also developed, which I actually think was the cause of the skin rashes as well. So once I did a ton of research about this, but your gut health is super important, and if you have leaky gut syndrome or something like that because you've been eating foods that just are toxic to your body, what can end up happening is food kind of gets into the body where it shouldn't be because the intestines kind of can't contain it anymore. So it's like this erosion or breakdown of your intestines, of your digestive organs, and it causes a lot of health problems. So I highly recommend just researching this for yourself. There's a ton of information on there. Dr. Berg was a really big help for me in that, his research and stuff like that. He kind of talks about healthy keto, and this was really, really helpful for me and very important also in my healing process. So I credit a lot of that research to him and what I was able to pick up and learn from him, because I think it really did help reset my body completely and make it a lot more healthier. The next thing that I was doing around the same time as well was I started to get back into shape and healthy again. So I had just noticed I felt so weak, I felt so depleted, and I had to build up my strength again, so I started to go to the gym. I had a lot of social anxiety about going to the gym because it was foreign to me. I was afraid of going into the gym and everyone kind of just staring at me and being like, what is she doing? She doesn't know how to use the equipment. But truth be told, there's instructions on every single piece of equipment. And if you don't want to read the instructions, there's somebody on YouTube explaining how to use every piece of equipment. So I got over that pretty quickly, and I made a rule for myself that 10 days couldn't go by without going to the gym. So that was kind of a long window, a long cushion, but that was super helpful because it also helped to re-socialize me because I had become so isolated living alone. And that was really important too, to bring the social aspect of my life back into harmony and balance. Something else that was interesting that happened too was I had found a YouTube channel called Strength Side. Highly recommend. Those guys are amazing and they're great, and they have this concept called movement snacks, where it's just like instead of going to eat a snack, it's not really about that, but it's about like snacking on movement, if this makes any sense. So I learned how beneficial it is to even just move my body for a few minutes at a time. So let's say I want to, I don't know, like lift or do some curls or lift something heavy or whatever, just to get my arms feeling active, and then I'll do a little toe touch stretch. That alone will help you get gains over time. So let's say you're somebody who doesn't like to work out for 45 minutes at a time or an hour at a time, but you can handle 3, 5, 10 minutes at a time. Definitely do that, because it accrues over time, and your body has this intelligence where it retains that information. So as you're doing these little movement snacks, you're actually making progress. So you might not feel like a couple minutes is worth it, but it actually is, and it builds up to something. So with all this stuff in place, I was on a trajectory back to good health, back into balance, back into harmony. But the universe loves to throw a curveball. So it loves to test you. How committed are you to your path? How committed are you to this journey that you're on? How committed are you to staying true to yourself and the things that you want? You begin to feel good, you begin to feel strong again. You know, I was losing a lot of weight because I had gained so much weight eating food that just really wasn't healthy for me with all that takeout that I mentioned before. And yeah, I just was feeling really, really good about myself. And I also had donated like a lot of my stuff. I think I got rid of like 2/3 of my belongings. So it was just clearing out excess and things that I had picked up just from, you know, being like consumerism-y. Is that a word? I don't know. But I was feeling really good. So what ended up happening was, just like how I had gotten that intuitive message, it's time to end this relationship. I got an intuitive message that it was time to leave this apartment that I had moved to and not to renew my lease. So I could feel this like, okay, it's time to move back, but the options I had were limited because I was able to not have to work that much or whatever, so that way I could just focus on myself full time. And what ended up happening was, around this point, I had noticed that my savings had diminished quite a bit, where I was like, I can't really even afford to stay here that much longer, so it does make sense that it's time for me to move. But it just felt like the natural trajectory of things that it was time to move. I actually got a job back to the location I wanted to move back to, and it seemed like everything was set up and ready to go. Don't exactly remember what happened or what my thought process was, but something in me was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go back. I don't want to go back just yet. I like being alone. I like being in my solitude. I like not having drama around me. I like feeling really comfortable in that. And I had some fear and still some social anxiety about going to work in a whole new environment with new people. So I think something in me was deciding I wasn't ready to go back yet. I wasn't ready to try something new, because the job that I had gotten was in a field I really wanted to get into, but I just didn't feel like I had the confidence and was ready for it. So I decided to pick up a job, ironically, in the location I was going to move back to anyway. But I picked up a job to supplement my income in a field that I had sworn off. So it was a field I had already had a full career in and didn't want to do it anymore. But I thought, at least I know how to do it. I'm going to pick up some money and work, because it was a very good paying job. And what ended up happening was, within a couple of weeks, I would, there was a bathroom in there, and I would go, you know, you go to the bathroom. But I remember going in there and I could see my face, my clear face that had been cleared up with the rash. It was like every day that I worked there, I could see my face was getting grayer and grayer and grayer. It was bizarre. And I knew deep down, like, this isn't the place for you. You know, you were guided to move back. You were definitely not guided to take this job. And I had actually even turned it down. It was an offer that came to me I had turned down, because I could feel intuitively I don't want to work here. And then the offer came back around again in this moment of like, I don't really want to move back. What should I do? So I took it. And then I got a sickness that was passed around in the office, and it put me out of work for 3 weeks. So it was very, very rough. And at the same time the sickness came up, I also had a perforated eardrum, which doctors are still confused how this even happened. I have no idea. And it caused me to lose my hearing for 3 months. This is when reflecting back and treating yourself with kindness and compassion is so important, because I just caught myself there going like this was so avoidable. You didn't have to go through all of that, but there was obviously a lesson that I still had to learn, and I had to learn it through a very hard way. So in the end, everything worked out the way that it was supposed to, but I could have saved myself a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering if I had just listened to my intuition. So the main also moral of the story here that I'm sharing is how important and imperative it is to listen to your intuition, especially when you know in your heart something is right for you or something is not right for you. It's up to you, once you have this awareness, what you want to do, because again, it's going to attract in things that are either going to support you or keep you small because you don't want to expand and you're not ready to expand. So that's what happened with me. As a result of being sick for that long, I lost even more weight. So I actually had to deal with being underweight pretty significantly for like the first time in my life. So that was very, very jarring because it felt like I was just going to blow away. It was a very weird feeling. I didn't feel acquainted or grounded in my body. I didn't feel safe in my body. And so that was something I had to heal now. So, and then not being able to hear, I worked as a singer. Literally, I still work as a singer. And I had to relearn how to sing just based on muscle memory. So I had a lot of help and support from my band at the time. I would literally ask, like, does that sound okay? And they would tell me yes or no. And it was very helpful that way. I did have some ability to hear out of my one ear. So there was like, I had a guide to go off of, but it was just unnerving and upsetting because, again, I've had perfect hearing my whole life. So something else I learned as a result of that is don't take your hearing for granted. Literally, don't take your eyesight for granted. Things that we take for granted every single day that, we're actually very fortunate to have. So that brought in a whole new level of gratitude. So what ended up happening was I found an amazing doctor, really excellent doctor. I'm so grateful for him. And I was able to have my hearing restored perfectly, which was also unheard of because like I said, I had a perforated eardrum, so they weren't sure exactly how that was going to heal. But he was saying, let's just be patient, time will tell. And, we had checkups and things like that. I was able to kind of go back to the gym and rehab myself, and it took a little bit of time because I had lost so much weight and because I had gotten so sick. It wasn't feasible anymore to keep up that elimination diet, so I slowly started to add back in these foods. And as I'm saying that, I can see in the grand scheme of things, okay, this makes sense because I was going to eat like that for the rest of my life probably. So I was able to gradually bring back like certain foods back into my life in a balanced way. So now I am actually able to eat things like a croissant, which I love, a baguette, which I love. It's a lot of it's like chocolate and bread things. So I was able to bring all of that back into my diet in a balanced way. So before I had just eaten so much of it, it eroded my stomach and all that, and my intestines and things. So now I'm able to actually enjoy it because I'm eating things in a moderated way that's actually healthy, and my body's able to support the digestion of those things now. So I was able to gain back some weight and feel a lot healthier and better and good in my body and feel grounded again. By this time too, I had quit that job. I had said, see ya, I'm out of here, because the relationship had gotten so dramatic and ridiculous. It was so wrong for me. I also had another job at the same time that had the same thing was happening, where it was shown to me, don't stay here anymore. And what ended up happening was a machine had malfunctioned and it gave me second-degree burns on my arm. So I walked out of the building and never came back. And what was interesting about that was, even though I had second-degree burns on my arm from this burn that had happened, there's no visible trace of any burn now. So it healed completely, and I was able to go, okay, lesson learned or whatever. So I kind of think back in hindsight with losing my hearing, it was actually about the universe saying, if you're not going to listen, we'll take away your hearing. I know that sounds very, very dramatic and like, geez, but I know deep down that that's what happened. I wasn't listening. I don't know why we get so stuck on the identity that we have, and the thought of losing it actually feels like a death of us. And it is in a way, but it's necessary and it's important. So I feel like that was the final piece that ended up happening. Was I did this very, very deep, intense meditation that I had felt called to do, and I was guided into by my higher self, where it was just literally I held a funeral for my old self, because it was just, we're not doing this anymore. We're not allowing people to treat us this way, and we're not allowing jobs, environments, foods, whatever, to bring us down. We're expanding here on out, so we have to let go of the old you. And it was emotional, but it was beautiful and it was empowering. And it's just like, you're never gone, you know what I mean? Just like a phoenix, you allow the ashes to take you, the fire to take you, and you're reborn out of that again. And I developed one of my favorite meditations, which is like a personal nightmare for a lot of people, which is just, I imagine myself deep in the ocean and it's dark. It's the creepiest part of the ocean. And I say, show me what I'm afraid of. And then I allow it to swim towards me. So for a lot of people, it's like, heck no, I never want to do that. But I found a lot of peace that way, because I had gotten to a place where I had no fear for myself anymore, where it was just like, I'm 100% supporting me now and moving forward with that attitude. And it just, I really made a point to just overcome as many fears and limiting beliefs as possible, and it was really, really helpful and really fruitful. So this is where the happy ending comes in. So because I had donated like 2/3 of my belongings, the move back was way, way easier, and I was able to have this like fresh kind of slate, blank canvas kind of a thing. So I moved back from whence I came, and back closer to the coastline, to the shore, which is just makes me so much more happier. And as an empath, I really enjoy being close to the shore, because when you are at the beach, it's like there's nothing. There's nothing in that direction for miles and miles and miles, other than marine life and birds and things like that. So it's a huge relaxer for me energetically, where I can just chill out and just be, and I love it. So I know now moving forward, I always need to be close to the shore, or to the coastline. That's me. So I moved back. I was able to just really enjoy myself. So my body felt really great. The rash had cleared up. It was like all of these things felt so much better. I was healthier. I was so strong. I had rehabbed myself. My mental state felt a lot better too. I just felt clear. And as a result, I was able to overcome my social anxiety. And slowly, it took a while, but slowly I started to connect with the music community, and just, there's so many wonderful opportunities that came my way as a result of that, as well as very harmonious and happy and healthy relationships and friendships, and just my way of relating to other people, which is all a relationship is, was so much more healthier and improved. And I found a lot of freedom and power in being able to create and participate in creating the relationships that I wanted to create by honoring myself first. So it's an ongoing lesson, but the main thing here that we're learning, and the whole point of this video, is just, again, to remind ourselves, one, it's so important. It's so important to follow your intuition, because it can actually cost you. It can cost you a lot of time, happiness, freedom, when you don't do that, when you don't align with your highest and greatest good, and you don't listen to your heart, your higher self, however your intuition is communicating with you. And then the other big thing is too, when your intuition does communicate with you, are you going to choose to listen to it or not? You know, it might feel like a pain to be like, ugh, now I have to end this thing. It's easier just to stay. It's like, it's not easier to stay, because it's going to cost you so much and so dearly if you continue to stay in a vibration or a frequency that you have long since outgrown. And it's really just about honoring, you know, how your soul wants to evolve, and giving it the space to do that, giving it the space to run free, to be free, and not confine you by old limitations, old expectations of yourself, old confinements. It's so important to let yourself just be. So in doing that, this long-winded story, if you have stayed with me all this time, thank you so much. That is awesome. I really appreciate you listening, and hopefully that this has found you and it's inspiring for you, because it's really why I'm sharing it, is to inspire other people. Because like, let me tell you, I had to go through all of this alone. Like I said, I had many dark nights of the souls going through this process, with just allowing the old version of me to go, and so the new version of me could be born. And since that time, I've had quite a few evolutions, and I'm actually going through, I'm capping one off right now. So it's just, the more you have your own back, and the more you are there for yourself, and the more you call in harmony, and you allow the universe to support you, because the universe always wants to support you. Whenever you are finding dissonance or imbalance, it's because you are receiving the help that the universe wants to give you. It really is that easy. That's how it is. So the universe, I fully believe, and I've seen for myself many times, that the universe is there for you. It's supporting you. It's just the egoic attachment that keeps us confined and stuck sometimes, that we need to let go of. I know easier said than done, but please let my story be a lesson to you to learn from and to inspire you to really align with your true self. I literally built and recreated my business all around the structuring of this as a result of these experiences that I've had, because life really is the best when you get to be your true self. It's the happiest, it's the most loving, it's the truest, literally, when you get to be your true self, and to give yourself the freedom and the opportunity to explore that. Who are you? Get to know you. Who are you becoming? Who have you always been? It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And at your core, just knowing that you are loved and supported by the universe, by yourself, and the universe really is an extension of ourselves if we think about it. We are one with everything. So that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed, please do like the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you like to share about any of your experiences. Did any of this resonate or sound familiar to you? Have you gone through similar things? I would love to know. And until next time, please do stay well and take care.